This is a story I don't readily share, even in a hospital setting. The reason is that this particular symptom might not be a simple skin issue at all. My name is Dr. Shoiki Tanaka, and I turned 88 this year. In my more than 50 years of treating patients, there is one truth I have come to realize. A persistent itch can be the very first signal of cancer. Perhaps you've been experiencing an itch somewhere on your body recently. It's the kind of itch that doesn't get better, no matter how much moisturizer you apply or what kind of medication you use. Many people dismiss it as a simple sign of getting older, but you must not make that mistake. I still see patients every Tuesday and Thursday at the hospital. You might be surprised to hear that an 88-year-old doctor is still actively practicing. One of the reasons I'm able to maintain my health and continue my work is that I never ignore the small signals my body sends me. Today, I want to talk to you about something incredibly important. It's about the terrifying truth that might be hiding behind a simple itch. It was last winter. A 75-year-old man came to me complaining of an itch on his shins. He said the area, which would occasionally itch after a shower, had started to tingle and crawl constantly. He had tried moisturizers and ointments, but nothing seemed to help. At first, I too thought it was likely just dry skin, a common issue. But something he said stuck with me. "Doctor," he asked, "my skin looks perfectly normal. Why does it itch so much?" I felt a sense of unease. His symptoms didn't fit the pattern of a typical skin problem. I recommended a more detailed examination, and the results were shocking. It was the early stage of lymphoma. I'll never forget what he said to me then. "Doctor, I just thought it was because I was getting old." That was the moment I realized it. How many signals had I, and countless others, missed over the years? After that, similar cases kept appearing. A 68-year-old woman with a persistent itch in the middle of her back was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. A 73-year-old man with an itchy scalp was found to have early signs of leukemia. From that day forward, I vowed to never take the symptom of itching lightly. That night, I went back and reviewed 50 years of my clinical records. What I discovered was astonishing. Approximately 30% of my cancer patients had complained of a specific localized itch in the 6 months leading up to their diagnosis. This was not a mere coincidence. I immediately began to research. I scoured domestic and international medical journals and consulted with my fellow physicians. Through this process, I was able to identify 6 specific areas of the body where an itch could be a dangerous signal related to cancer. These are areas that everyone, especially those over 60, should be aware of. You must listen to this entire discussion to understand the full context. The information I'm about to share could very well save your life or the life of someone you love. If you find what I'm saying to be valuable, please consider subscribing and liking this video so that this critical information can reach as many people as possible. Today, I will cover 2 main topics. First, the 6 dangerous itch zones linked to cancer. Second, a self-diagnosis method you can use at home. If some part of your body is tingling or itching right now, I implore you to listen to what I have to say until the very end. Is the shins. The first area I want to discuss is the shins, specifically the front part of your lower legs. If you have a persistent itch in this area, you need to consider the possibility of lymphoma. When there is inflammation in the lymphatic system, inflammatory substances can stimulate the peripheral nerves. A characteristic symptom of this is an itch on the shins. This presents in a pattern completely different from a normal skin itch. Let me tell you about Mr. Taro Yamada, a 75-year-old man I saw last winter. He had been suffering from an itch on his shins for 3 months. At first, it was just an occasional annoyance, but it gradually worsened until every night around 3 a.m., the front of his shins would start to itch so intensely that he couldn't sleep. "Doctor," he told me, "scratching doesn't bring relief. It just makes it feel more crawly and strange." He had tried everything, thinking it was poor circulation. He got massages, used warm compresses, and even wore compression stockings. His concerned wife bought expensive moisturizers, but they were useless. That's when he came to our hospital. Here is a method you can use to check at home. First, apply a moisturizer or anti-itch ointment to the area exactly 3 times a day. Every day, for 1 week. If it's a common skin issue, you will definitely start to see some improvement. However, an itch related to lymphoma will not get better with external treatments. In fact, it has a tendency to get worse over time. Another crucial clue is the time of day. The itch associated with lymphoma tends to be most severe in the early morning or at night. You might feel fine during the day, but it starts as soon as you lie down. This is because the lymphatic system is more active at night, and lymphatic circulation slows when you're lying down. Here is a critical point. The lymphoma itch will not respond to standard ointments or antihistamines. This is because it is a problem with your internal immune system. If you have an itch on your shins that persists for more than 3 weeks and doesn't respond to any treatment, you should see a hematologist immediately. Mr. Yamada's lymphoma was discovered in its early stages. He received proper treatment and has now made a full recovery. When caught early, the success rate for treating lymphoma is over 90%. Have you recently experienced a strange itch on or around your shins? Or the middle of the back? The second area is the middle of the back. The pancreas has a neurological connection to the back, so when there's a problem with the pancreas, it often sends a signal to this area. In the early stages of pancreatic cancer, bile duct obstruction and nerve connections can cause a persistent itch in a single spot on the back. This is called referred pain, where a symptom appears in a location different from the actual problem. Let me share the story of Mrs. Hanako Sato, who came to see me recently. This 8-year-old woman had tried absolutely everything. She had a persistent itch in one specific spot in the middle of her back. At first, she thought it was her bedding and bought a new mattress. When that didn't work, she changed her pillows and bought all new blankets. She even did a massive deep clean of her entire house to eradicate any dust mites. I've turned my house completely upside down. She said, I threw out the carpets and bought a new sofa, but that one spot still itches. She had been to a dermatologist, had allergy tests done, and tried multiple ointments, all to no avail. What Mrs. Sato found particularly troubling was the pattern of the itch. I'm fine all day long, she explained, but it starts up after dinner. At first, I thought I was eating something that triggered it, but it happens no matter what I eat. The itch starts right on schedule. Here's how you can check this at home. Take your fingers and gently press on the itchy spot in the middle of your back. If the itch is related to your pancreas, you might feel a sensation of heaviness or a subtle, deep discomfort when you press the area. This feels completely different from a typical skin itch. Also, pay close attention to your digestion. The pancreas is a vital organ that secretes digestive enzymes. If the back itch is accompanied by digestive issues, especially if you feel bloated and have trouble digesting fatty foods, you need to be more cautious. But here is the real danger. Because the signal from the pancreas often manifests in the back, many people mistake it for simple muscle soreness or a pulled muscle. Using a pain relief patch or getting a massage might provide temporary relief, but the underlying itch will continue. If your skin looks perfectly normal, yet you have a persistent crawling itch in one spot on your back, do not dismiss it. You must get a thorough examination. Have you ever felt a strange sensation like this in your back? Sen, the scalp. The third area is the scalp. An itchy scalp can surprisingly often be a preliminary symptom of leukemia. When abnormal white blood cells are overproduced, they release a large amount of inflammatory substances. These substances can irritate the delicate nerves in the scalp, causing an itch to begin. It often starts in the area behind the ears or near the nape of the neck. I have a memorable patient, a 3-year-old man named Mr. Ichiro Suzuki. He was an incredibly meticulous person and came to his appointment with detailed records. Doctor, he said, I've been keeping a diary for 3 months. I've written down when it itches, what I was doing, and what makes it worse. At first, he thought it was his shampoo and switched to a brand with gentler ingredients. When that didn't work, He tried not using conditioner and then tried washing his hair only with soap. He tried washing his hair only once every other day, but nothing helped. The strange thing is, he said, I don't have dandruff and my scalp isn't red. It just starts itching for no reason. It's worse behind my ears. What was even stranger was that it didn't bother him much during the day, but the itching would start as soon as he lay down at night. Here's a way you can check at home. Gently touch your scalp. If the itch is related to leukemia, you might notice that a specific area feels slightly warmer than the surrounding skin. This is because there is a micro-inflammatory reaction happening in that spot. Also, observe the pattern of the itch carefully. A scalp itch that appears as a symptom of leukemia tends to worsen at night, like Mr. Zutsuki. You might find that it doesn't bother you during the day, but begins as soon as you lie down. This is because your blood circulation patterns change when you're lying down, altering the distribution of inflammatory substances. You should also pay attention to other accompanying symptoms. If you've been feeling unusually tired lately, if small cuts seem to take longer to heal than before, if you're bruising easily, or if your gums are bleeding, you need to be extra vigilant. Have you recently felt a strange, persistent tingling on your scalp or neck? The chest area. Fourth is an itch around the chest. This can be an early signal of inflammatory breast cancer or male breast cancer. When lymphatic vessels become blocked, cancer cells can cause irritation, and the skin may begin to resemble the peel of an orange. This is often accompanied by itching. Unlike common types of breast cancer, you may not be able to feel a lump, which makes it even more critical to pay attention to. Let me tell you about Mrs. R. Geiko Tanaka, a 69-year-old woman I consulted with a few months ago. She was a very careful person. Doctor, she began, the area where I wear my bra has been persistently itchy. At first, I thought it was my underwear. Mrs. Tanaka had tried everything. She switched between bras made of cotton, silk, and even bamboo fiber. She tried going braless and only wore loose-fitting clothes. But the itch continued. The strange thing is, she said, it's only on my right breast. The left side is completely fine. Here is how you can check this at home. Stand in front of a mirror and carefully compare both breasts. If you notice that the texture of the skin on one side is different, if it looks slightly swollen, or if the color is a little off, you need to be concerned. In Mrs. Tanaka's case, her right breast had a slightly reddish hue. The location of the itch is also important. Inflammatory breast cancer often begins around the nipple or on the underside of the breast. If the itch is persistent and only on one side, you need to be particularly vigilant. If both breasts are itchy, it's most likely a common skin issue. But a persistent itch on only one side should be investigated. Also, check for any changes in the skin. It may start as a simple itch, but over time, the skin can become warm to the touch or develop an orange peel-like texture. It might also lose its elasticity when you gently press on it. Men are absolutely not exempt from this. Male breast cancer. While rare, accounting for about 1% of all breast cancers, does exist, men over 60 who experience a persistent itch around the nipple must get it checked out. Here is a critically important point. Even if you cannot feel a lump, if you have skin changes accompanied by an itch, you need to get an examination immediately. Inflammatory breast cancer progresses faster than other types of breast cancer. However, if it's detected early, it is highly treatable. Is anyone among you experiencing a persistent itch on your chest? Whoa, the anal or genital area. Fifth is the anal or genital region. A persistent itch in this area can be a sign of anal cancer or vulvar cancer. As a tumor grows, it begins to press on the surrounding tissues. This can irritate the nerves, leading to a stinging. Persistent itch. This presents in a pattern different from common inflammation or hemorrhoids. I had a case that left a deep impression on me. Mr. Datsuya Watanabe, a 76-year-old man, has suffered from hemorrhoids for over 30 years. So when the area around his anus started to itch, he just assumed his hemorrhoids were flaring up again. Doctor, he said, I've had hemorrhoids since I was young. So I'm used to these symptoms, but this time it feels a little different. Mr. Watanabe explained that his usual hemorrhoid symptoms were painful when sitting or during a bowel movement, but this time it was an itch that was present even when he was still. He tried applying more of his usual hemorrhoid ointment and even took sitz baths 3 times a day. He had undergone hemorrhoid surgery in the past, so he went back to that hospital, but they told him nothing was particularly wrong. Here is how you can check this. Try to pinpoint the exact location of the itch. A common inflammation or hemorrhoids usually gives a general feeling of discomfort, but an itch related to cancer is often concentrated in one very specific spot. Many patients describe it as a feeling like being pricked with a needle. The intensity of the itch is also different. A common inflammation tends to get better with time, but a cancer-related itch will gradually get worse. It is particularly agonizing at night. Mr. Watanabe also mentioned that when he would lie down to sleep at night, the itch would intensify, making it impossible to rest. Pay close attention to accompanying symptoms. If you have bleeding during bowel movements, if the shape or size of your stool has changed, if you have a feeling of incomplete urination, or if you notice a change in the color or smell of any discharge, you need to be more cautious. Also, check the response to treatment. A common inflammation will be somewhat relieved by appropriate ointments or medication, but if it's related to cancer, these treatments will have no effect. In fact, it will likely get worse over time. Here is a critically important warning. Do not delay seeing a doctor because you feel embarrassed. Early diagnosis is especially crucial for these areas. As in Mr. Watanabe's case, it's common for people to dismiss the symptoms because of a pre-existing condition. Is anyone among you experiencing a persistent discomfort in these areas? Lou, the hands and feet. The sixth and final area is the hands and feet. If the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet are particularly itchy, you should consider the possibility of advanced liver cancer. Toxins produced by cancer cells can travel through the bloodstream and affect the peripheral nerves, causing an itch to appear in the extremities. This is a symptom that appears when the cancer has progressed to a certain stage, so it requires immediate attention. One of the most surprising cases I've encountered was that of Mrs. Akira Takahashi. This 70-year-old woman had a persistent itch only on the palms of her hands. At first, she thought it was housewife's eczema and received treatment from a dermatologist. Doctor, she said, I wear gloves when I do the dishes, and I've switched to a gentle soap. I don't understand why this is happening. Mrs. Takahashi was meticulous in her care. She applied hand cream 5 or 6 times a day and even wore cotton gloves to bed at night. She wondered if washing her hands too much was the problem. So she tried washing them only once or twice a day and even adjusted the water temperature to lukewarm. The strange thing is, she explained, the backs of my hands are fine. It's only the palms that itch. It's especially bad along the lines of my palms. She had even tried scrubbing them with a toothbrush, thinking something might be stuck in the creases. What was even more baffling was that it only got worse at night. When I'm busy during the day, I don't notice it much. She said, but in the evening, when I lie down, my palms start to crawl and tingle, and it's unbearable. She had tried meditation and hand massages, thinking it might be stress related. Here's how you can check this at home. Look closely at the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. If the itch is related to cancer, the skin color might have a slightly yellowish tint, and the lines on your palms or the creases on your soles might appear deeper than before. In Mrs. Takahashi's case, her palms did have a subtle yellow hue. The pattern of the itch is also distinctive. Both hands and feet tend to itch at the same time, and it is especially bad at night. You might feel fine during the day, but it starts to crawl as soon as you lie down. This is because your blood circulation patterns change, causing toxins to concentrate in the peripheral areas. The method of relief is also different. For a common skin problem, moisturizing or soaking your hands and feet in cool water will provide some relief. But if it's related to cancer, these methods won't be very effective. It might feel cool for a moment, but it won't be a fundamental solution. Here's a very important point to be aware of. An itch on the hands and feet is often mistaken for a skin disease, diabetes, or poor circulation and is therefore overlooked. Especially as we get older, we tend to have poorer circulation and dismiss it as such. But an abnormal itch only in the extremities could be a sign of peripheral neuropathy or a systemic disease. If you are over 60 and this itch persists for more than 3 weeks, I strongly recommend getting a comprehensive checkup. Have you recently experienced a strange sensation like this in your hands or feet? At home self-diagnosis. The 5-step check. Now, I will teach you a detailed self-diagnosis method you can do at home. Remembering these 5 steps can be a great help in early detection. First, the 3-week rule. If an itch in the same spot continues for more than 3 weeks, it is absolutely not a simple symptom. Common skin troubles or allergies usually improve within 1 to 2 weeks. Mark it on a calendar to track the exact duration. If it exceeds 3 weeks, you must go to the hospital. Second, the cream response test. Apply a moisturizer or anti-itch ointment for exactly 1 week, 3 times a day, regularly. If it's a common skin issue, you will definitely see some level of relief. However, if there is no response at all, or if it gets worse, you should suspect an internal cause. The fact that it doesn't respond to external treatment means it's not a problem with the skin itself. Third, check for accompanying symptoms. It's rare for an itch to appear completely on its own. If you've lost more than 3 kilograms, about 5 pounds in a month, if you're feeling much more tired than usual, if you frequently have a low-grade fever, or if you've suddenly lost your appetite, there's a high possibility of a systemic disease. If these symptoms appear along with the itch, you need to get checked sooner rather than later. Fourth, pattern analysis. Keep a careful record of when the itch gets worse. A cancer-related itch tends to be worse at night. While being relatively manageable during the day, it also tends to be repeatedly itchy in one specific location. If the itch moves around your back today, your arm tomorrow is less concerning. But if it's always the same spot that's tingling and crawling, you need to be cautious. Fifth, family history check. If your parents or siblings have a history of cancer, your risk is 2 to 3 times higher. You should be especially careful if it's the same type of cancer. For those with a family history, I recommend not ignoring even the smallest signals and getting regular checkups more frequently. I encourage you all to go through these 5 steps one by one right now. Thank you so much for listening to my long talk today. Let's review the points we've covered one more time. First, let's reconfirm the 6 dangerous itch zones. Shins could indicate lymphoma, especially if worse in the early morning and unresponsive to moisturizers. Middle of the back. A persistent itch in one spot could be an early sign of pancreatic cancer, especially if it appears with indigestion. Scalp behind the ears. Could be a precursor to leukemia. If it doesn't get better after changing shampoo and is worse at night, get a blood test. Chest area. Could be a sign of inflammatory breast cancer or male breast cancer. Men are not exempt. Anal genital area. A persistent itch could indicate anal or vulvar cancer. Don't let embarrassment delay a professional consultation. Palms and soles. An itch specifically in these areas could be a sign of advanced liver cancer, especially if it appears with systemic symptoms. Next, review the self-diagnosis steps. Do you remember the 3-week rule? If the same spot itches for more than 3 weeks, it's not a simple symptom. Have you done the cream response test? If a week of applying moisturizer or ointment does nothing, suspect an internal cause. Have you checked for accompanying symptoms? Weight loss, fatigue, low-grade fever, and loss of appetite, along with an itch point to a systemic disease. The pattern is also important. If it's worse at night and repeats in the same spot, it could be a cancer-related itch. Finally, have you checked your family history? If you have a family history of cancer, don't ignore small signals and get more frequent checkups. Not every itch is cancer, but every cancer starts with a small signal. Please do not dismiss it as just getting old. Listen a little more closely to the signals your body is sending you. Even at 88 years old, I continue to see patients. I do it because I know that a single small signal can save someone's family. There is one crucial truth I've learned from over 50 years of treating patients. If caught early enough, most cancers are treatable. There's something you can do right now. Tonight, before you go to sleep, take another look at your own body. Check where it itches, when it gets worse, and how long it has been going on. Mark it on a calendar to keep an accurate record. If any of the symptoms I've discussed today apply to you, please don't hesitate. Go to the doctor, tell them exactly when it started, what the pattern is like, and what other symptoms are appearing with it. Your health is the most important thing, not money, not fame. Nothing is more important than your health. I sincerely hope that this video can be the first step in protecting your life. In the next video, I will talk about warning signals hidden behind common old age symptoms other than cancer. Joint pain, indigestion, headaches. Even these seemingly ordinary symptoms can be things we need to be careful about. I want to share this important health information with as many people as possible. If you subscribe, like, and turn on notifications, you can receive more health information quickly. Please share this video with the important people in your life. I wish for all of you to be healthy. If you start now, what kind of life will you be living this time next year? I'm sure it will be a healthier and more vibrant one. What is the one thing you will check on today